the job search around networking, and I know that you're welcome to add more to that, Scott. Oh, and I should introduce myself, I guess. I'm Jacqueline Wittes. I overcame a really long employment gap to end up at Microsoft. I still, it's been 3 years and I still don't believe it, because I remember going to a job fair and there was this huge line. I thought it was the line to get in. And so I asked someone, they're like, no, this is the line to talk to Microsoft. And I was like, well, that's not me. And I went right around it and entered the job fair. So a lot of growth in that area. And part of my mantra is don't tell yourself no, let somebody else tell you no. So there's my tip of the day. But we'll get to more of those. Anyway, Scott, would you like to do a quick introduction, and we'll get this conversation going?
Absolutely. So my name is Scott Raether. If you haven't connected with me yet on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. Now, do I occasionally, probably less than more than what I used to, put together some really great content, but more than anything, I also share great content with the people that are in my network. So I just passed 15,000 followers. So I'm doing pretty good in that realm. And with that said, it's through a lot of engaging, communicating, finding commonality, building bonds, creating relationships that has kind of got me to where I'm at on that platform. In general, I work for the Air Force. I assist military members, spouses, and veterans with the process of career marketing, looking for new opportunities, creating job search strategies, developing resumes, etc. And then, of course, a great LinkedIn workshop that I have to offer as well. So the one thing that I found, obviously, Jacqueline, you being your military spouse and that part of the gap, that's kind of where my passion lies. And I'm slowly starting to see another passion with transitioning teachers and kind of helping them get to where they need to go next. So I really love and thrive at taking individuals, finding out maybe what their purpose and passion is, and then helping align that with a new profession. And what I found is sometimes that's very difficult to do if you don't necessarily have the right skills, but by developing relationships and building a network, it makes it more likely for somebody to give you a chance for that to happen. I've been in this industry since 1992. I know that's crazy, right? Courtney's like, I don't even think I was born in 92. but before then, we didn't even have the internet. And I was literally on a word processor putting together resumes and stuff like that. So I've been doing this for a super long time. Fortunately, I'm not an old salty dog that says, no, I remember the way we used to do it, and that's the way it's supposed to be done. I've kept up with the times, and I like to share my knowledge with other people and help them get to the direction that they need to go. So, in a pretty quick
super excited.
That's who I am and what I do.
Yes, awesome. I too was typing out resumes in 90, in the 90s. When you had to get the fancy paper, or else, it was like the paper you put it on mattered.
Right.
And now we're at a slightly different time frame. So I still had like a whole stack of that resume paper for years and years and years. I carried it with me, like from military move to military move. And then finally I was like, I don't think I need this anymore. So
it's good card stock.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's at least not as expensive to do a resume because you're in a job search, you have to pay $20 for fancy paper. That was a little bit of a hit to the heart. But let's talk networking, because job searching, and particularly like you mentioned pivots, and I've seen a huge uptick of the teachers as well on LinkedIn trying to pivot away from education and into spaces. But all of it can be really, really difficult. So And there's a lot of steps to make a resume, apply. How should people prioritize networking in this piece of their part of their lives?
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of where it generally starts for most job seekers, is they think, okay, I need to put together my resume, and I'll talk to maybe my family and friends about, what jobs they might know that are out there. And then for a lot of us maybe that aren't on the LinkedIn platform, we then maybe reach out to Facebook, because once again, that's kind of where our families and friends are. And then somewhere along the lines, you stumble across this platform called LinkedIn. And all of a sudden you start to, you're not posting anything, you're not seeing anything, you're just kind of in the background observing. And all of a sudden, like a light comes on, or at least the light should come on. And then you make that sort of first post, and it might gain some momentum, and it probably won't. It takes time to get that momentum. So that's why you really need to kind of take the ball into your own hands and be really kind of aggressive with reaching out to people that are quote unquote strangers, and trying to find a way to connect with them to establish this relationship. And then once you get that momentum going, then you start to get a little bit more confidence in the ability of like, okay, well, now I think I'm going to go talk about this or share my experience in that. And then things really kind of start to pick up steam. But the one thing I think I see a lot of people getting discouraged about is, well, I created content and it's crickets. It takes a little bit of consistency. It's going to take a lot of trial and error. Like I said, even for myself, I see some people that are new to the platform and they just get awesome engagement in their post. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 10 plus years and I don't get the engagement that these other people are getting. What's wrong with me? And, you can't let that get to you. You just got to keep pressing forward. But that's how you build this network. Network relates to community, where community relates to opportunities and sort of that hidden job market that we often hear about.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to just to echo some of that. First of all, it is intimidating okay, for me it was super, and I knew, since I had done network marketing before, I knew social media and in a sense and what kind of things to post, story, all of those things, but it was always on Facebook. So when I came to LinkedIn, I was like, well, my content doesn't belong here because they're all professionals and I'm just a stay-at-home mom that's done a whole bunch of other things in the background. So what value do I have here? And right. It is terrifying to hit post that first time. And it's terrifying the second and third and fourth time. And then one day it's not terrifying anymore. It's just a habit. But you might have to find that buddy first who's going to support your content, like regardless of like they're just always there waiting for what you do. And that's kind of that first,
right.
Wait, I have somebody that looks for my stuff. And when you get one of those, then their network sees their post. And, I love that piece of it is the lack of anonymity on LinkedIn and how you can grow each other's networks. So, yeah. So is that where you would say to start is LinkedIn?
Kinda. Yeah. I think that's the sort of, if we want to start grassroots, then it's going to the children's soccer games, it's volunteering, it's participating maybe in church activities, or going, looking at networking events on maybe meetup.com or lunch. I think it's lunch. I got to look it up again. It's like lunch.com, I think. Oh my gosh. That's driving me crazy.
I've heard of that one. All right. I'm sure we can Google it.
Let me open it. Lunch, maybe it's Lunch Club. Oh my gosh, now it's driving me nuts. But basically what you do, it's really kind of cool. It's professional, but you fill out a profile of what it is that you do, and it gives you suggestions of other people to talk to. And then you literally schedule 30-minute informational meetings, and you can do as many as you want in a week. So like, as I tend to try to put myself out there, I think it's lunchclub.com.
Oh, I found one called lunch meetup, lunch.meetup.com.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about a dating site. Yeah. So we're not talking about a dating site, and I don't know if it's a dating site, but I think it's lunchclub.com.
Well, yeah, if lunchmeetup.com is a dating site, I apologize for putting that.
Yeah, so that's not it. But yeah, it's lunchclub.com. So I just looked it up. Okay, and it opens on my government computer, so it's safe.
Okay.
So basically, you're having really generic, organic conversations with total strangers, and you're learning about each other and what you do and how maybe you could help and support and collaborate with each other. But it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend kind of putting yourself out there. And then, of course, as you're building LinkedIn and getting on LinkedIn, don't worry about creating content right now. I would focus more on engaging with other people's content. So it's kind of like what you're saying, like having that one buddy that maybe engage in whatever it is that they post. What I try to do, and I actually enjoy doing, is kind of supporting that underdog. As I'm going through my feed, I'll look for the post that has barely no engagement, and my heart goes out to that individual. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to comment on their post just to, make them feel better, because it takes time to come up with something to write about. So instead of the person that has hundreds of comments in their feed, I will pick the one that might have 0 or 5 comments, and just do whatever I can to support their efforts, because obviously they're kind of the one that needs the support. And then I also look at it as a numbers game. Do you want to be the one of 5 that comments in a post, or are you going to be one of 100 and you don't necessarily get recognized because you're just a mass number of people making comments? So worry about engaging and then slowly morph into creating your own content.
Yes, I love that. And that's probably where I see the biggest growth. When I first started saying I'm going to build a presence on LinkedIn and start networking, I kind of committed to, I'm going to sit here for an hour a day and just comment on other people's stuff. Now, at the same time, I was posting, but I didn't have creator mode on or any of those things. It was just, I'm going to engage. So one tip I bring into it is, if you see someone sharing an opinion, ask a clarifying question. I can promise you, creators love when you go and ask a question on our post, because it can start a conversation, and then that boosts engagement. And that's kind of what we want. Because I believe in my content, and I'm like, I just want people to see it. It's like, I gave great advice today. I hope people can see it. And I have really sluggish, I have great engagement, but then sluggish views. So it's really interesting even to understand what's going on there. I have no idea, but it's my reality. So it's like, okay. And I'm always like, can I bust out of that LinkedIn jail? I think it was because I was always posting about mentorship live events, so that just all my engagement started dropping a lot. And so I don't post about these as much because it was killing me. So I'm like, but it's free and it's fun. Anyway,
right?
Yeah, that's my own little rant on the side, but just engage with people's stuff. We love it. We appreciate it. It makes us show up the next day. Or when it's like, oh, I have to sit down and write content. There's nothing worse than being like, well, why am I doing this? And anybody even seeing it? So I love it, especially the small followings or engagement. Just, I love it. Okay.
I totally agree. Yeah. So another really great way that I love to build community with people that might be in my industry or like-minded individuals is when we go into the search engine on LinkedIn, and let's say you are searching for a position in human resources or logistics or whatever it might be, right? Instead of, as we go through the tabs, go over and look at events. Find the events that are happening on the LinkedIn platform that are related to your industry or your niche, and then attend those events, just like this. Okay. The cool thing is once you have registered for that event, you then have access to everybody else that is registered for that event. And you could send them a quick connection request. Hey, I noticed you're attending the logistics symposium that's going to be offered on LinkedIn on June 9th or whatever it might be. I look forward to seeing you there. I'd love to connect with you. And then literally what I'll do is I'll copy that message and I'll go to the next person and I'll paste it. I'll copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. And lo and behold, I've now connected with maybe 15 people that are going to the same event, have the same interests that I have. Then I go to the event. And once I'm in the event, I not only learn, I get to meet the people that are there. And then somewhere along the lines, of that workshop or the conversation, I make sure to kind of either find a way to either drop in my LinkedIn URL or make a comment or ask a question, something so that way people will see my name and then hopefully gravitate back over to my profile and then reach out to connect with me. So I'm a big fan of attending different types of virtual learning events to meet other people as well.
I love that. I never even thought of, I mean, I've done it organically by attending an event and seeing people that were like, oh, wait, they're a product manager too, and they're attending the same thing as me. So, but I've not strategically used that method. So that is an amazing tip. And then I hope everyone knows about the LinkedIn advanced search as a whole, where you can search by companies people work for right now, schools, all of that. Do you use that as well, Scott?
Absolutely, yeah. So if I could, I mean, a small plug, I guess, on June 9th, which is actually next Thursday night, I will be doing hands-on LinkedIn happy hour. It will be from 5 to 8 p.m. Central Time. It'll be myself and 3 other heavy hitters on LinkedIn, and we're just going to be discussing the platform, how to build an effective profile, how to use the search engine effectively, create engagement, network, and apply for jobs. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
So, do you know Eddie Cervantes? Eddie Cervantes.
I know his name. I haven't built a relationship yet.
Point. Yeah, so he'll be there. Nadia Newkirk, all kind of military type people, but we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Okay, yeah, feel free to drop that link in chat before the end of this call. If you want to do that, then by all means, I'd love to have people. Yeah. So I will pause right now. Does anybody have any specific questions on before we? I always have questions, but I'm happy to give you guys the floor for a minute if you'd like to take it. Nothing. You must be doing an amazing job on clarity, Scott.
Please ask questions.
Yeah. So let's. Oh, please.
Okay. Good. We got one.
I had a question, and then it escaped me, and then I was hopefully coming back. But now I'm gonna have to re-ask it later because I totally left my head. But as far as happy hour, are beers optional? Can we bring a beer while we watch this LinkedIn for your next one?
Absolutely. It is BYOB. So there may be some cocktails had during this event. After all, it is a happy hour. Did that go through? What did I just add in there? But yes. So yeah, we'll be having fun, and that's the whole idea of it. Is So that's an active link. So the idea of it is to create. It's more than anything. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of learning going on. However, the idea is let's create community. Let's have a good time. Let's learn together, ask questions. We'll probably even be roasting some profiles. So it'll be fun.
So I do remember the question. I'm kind of an introvert, but I'm a extrovert in groups. So it's a weird dynamic I have. But how do you go and approach, because coming from a military background and starting to get into a social media realm with new technology, how do you help someone kind of like break in? Are we just kind of like you said, do the engagement first and then just kind of leak in, or or have an accountability partner and kind of work into that one? What's a good one for us shy types?
Yeah, so I mean, I do get this a lot when I'm facilitating on a base. I mean, we are what's the word? I don't know. We're just told, like, you stay away from social media. The bad guys are going to get us. We got to protect our identity, and it all goes against the grain of career branding and career marketing, which is a total adjustment that you need to kind of sort of dive into. The one thing I would say is, once again, kind of start out in baby steps and connect with people that are strangers that are maybe in the same branch of service. They went to the same college as you went to. They're from the same community that you're in. Like, so I'm in St. Louis. So connecting with people that are in St. Louis, and we can talk about where we like to go eat and, our favorite sports team or whatever it might be, right? So while they're a stranger, I'm always looking for commonality because commonality drives conversation. And when we're able to have a great conversation with somebody, that breaks down barriers and it creates friendships. When we create friendships, that leads to opportunity, because then when they find something, they're being like, oh, I think Jesse would be a great fit for that opportunity. Let me reach out to them. Whereas if you're sort of being a wallflower and you're not out there kind of engaging or putting yourself out there, nobody's really going to remember your name to provide you with opportunity. So once again, start with the small stuff. Always connect with recruiters. Number one, not only would recruiters know about job opportunities, but you might know somebody that could help that recruiter fill a role. Plus, recruiters share a lot of great content as well about job search strategy that you can learn upon. So I always say industry, location, recruiters are a great way to start with connecting with strangers. And then from there, you'll start to morph out into other areas.
I would love to echo some of that because I just found out I'm an ambivert, but that means that sometimes I'm an extrovert, and then when I hit my social wall, I completely withdraw and have almost social anxiety. So it's really you may want to look into that even. But I actually read the book the introvert advantage, and it is about like what do introverts bring to a team and in a professional realm, and that helped boost the introvert part of me confidence so high, because there's something also different about networking when you're like when you realize the world is built kind of for extroverts to promote and to get the most notice and things like that, but that means they're often missing some of the most introspective and thoughtful best question askers and pieces of the team. And when you start really focusing on what introverts bring to a team, then it starts giving you a little bit more confidence on like they need me. They need people like me to pull back from, because a lot of extroverts will take an idea and run with it, and that's awesome because it gets a lot of stuff done, but they may be running in the wrong direction. So it's often the introverts that are going to be like, hey, are we sure we're solving the right problem here? And really understanding that can help you both in interviewing and even in that reaching out piece. So that might be helpful if you are a reader or audiobook listening type person, just to build that. But I would echo the just comment on people's stuff and ask questions. Like if most introverts have questions all the time, and sometimes we're afraid to, are we going to be bothering them by asking the questions? Just ask. Like if they don't want to answer, they just won't answer. That's all. But don't tell yourself no.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And that's also a great line I'll keep to myself for today. my line, my quote.
Yeah, I have to remind myself, like, let somebody else tell you no, don't tell yourself no, because the conversation ends there if I'm telling me no, and then but somebody else doesn't answer, whatever. If they don't answer, don't take those things personally on LinkedIn for sure, though. Gracious.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Is anybody experiencing any specific challenges that you don't know how to overcome? Might be a great pivot. All right. If not, then on that relationship piece, I would love to, and you kind of brushed on this with when you have that friendship, but there's also the piece of job searching, feeling a time pressure to find something, because the reality is if we don't have a job, bills are stacking up, or that concern that that's going to happen as their savings dwindles. And we're over here saying, oh, networking takes time and relationships take time. How do you know the right timing to reach out to someone when you're kind of familiar with them, but maybe you haven't reached that friendship bridge yet? You're just starting to feel that desperation of the circumstance. Do you have any insights on that?
So I mean, as we sort of talked about from the very beginning, and maybe not everybody was on quite yet, but we talked about the boogeyman of the applicant tracking system. and how it works and how it doesn't work. And we're not going to get into that today. The bottom line is the best way to circumvent it is by becoming a referral, which once again means you got to know people to become a referral. So my strategic approach to this is once again by using the search filter on LinkedIn. So let's say you're on LinkedIn, you're on Indeed, I don't care if it's Monster, Career Builder, or the company website. You find a job you're interested in. You're automatically going to go to LinkedIn. You're going to search for that company on the LinkedIn platform, and you're going to see a hyperlink of how many people work for that company that are on the platform. You're then going to narrow down your search. And once again, there's a lot of ways that you can narrow down that search. But for today, let's just say we're going to search for recruiters that work for that organization. So what I do is then I search and I find maybe, let's say, 5 recruiters that work there. So once again, and this is sort of the thing, I've had some recruiters say, apply for the job first. I've had other recruiters say, reach out to us first. Because it's so different, I'm not sure which one is best. I will say that whenever you reach out to a recruiter, put the job requisition number in the connection request so they can know exactly what position you've either applied for or you're interested in. Okay, next. Before you do that though, before you send this message, I want you to look at their profile. Once again, I want you to look at their headline, their about section, their experience, their education, their volunteerism. Once again, we're looking for some sort of commonality. What is it with that recruiter that you have in common with them? Sometimes there's something, sometimes there isn't. If there really isn't anything, then I'd probably say think outside the box a little bit and try to come up with something unique to the point where they at least want to reach back to you. I also want you to look at their activity, because if they're not very active on the platform, odds are they may not reply to your connection request or in mail that you send them. If they're extremely active on the platform, what I would recommend doing is seeing anything that they have posted by themselves and then respond to that post. So that way they start to see your name. Or if they responded in their activity to the post of somebody else, respond to what they said and then make sure that you tag them. Once again, they're going to get a notification saying that you tagged them in a post. So now they're going to recognize your name. They're going to recognize that you're trying to support them. And if at all possible, another thing that you could do is look at the company news. And then if the company makes a post on LinkedIn, respond to that company post that's on LinkedIn, but tag the recruiter that you have been communicating with. So once again, this is creating that name recognition and kind of telling them, hey, I'm here to support you as much as I need your support. And then initiate that conversation. I'm extremely in your opportunity as a logistics manager, requisition number 0543. Please let me know what the best process forward would be, blah, 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 blah. And then kind of go forward from there. By taking that approach of tagging them a couple of times, now I'm not saying stalking, we have to kind of, know where the line is at, but by getting that name recognition, the more likely they are to want to support you in the long run, because you're going above and beyond what everybody else has done.
Yes, so I love that. Yeah. And also keep in mind that if you can find the recruit, like especially in FANG, we get this in the big companies, we get this a lot, is, well, you're a recruit, you're a recruiter for Microsoft, then you know all about this job. No, we have multiple divisions, and each of those have their own recruiting staff. So they're going to be looking for the people to fill their roles. And so if you look and see if they tell you what division they work in, then try and see if you can, sometimes the job postings are clear. It's like, they may say, oh, we're in the gaming division. Well, you know that you're going to be looking for, like for Microsoft, you're going to be looking for recruiters on Xbox. Straight up. There's, and then we have a couple other subsidiaries and whatnot, or companies that have folded into us, but that's, you don't want to add people in developer division trying to get the Xbox job, because they're just not filling those roles. And sometimes it takes a lot of extra legwork on their part to try and find out who's doing that. So that advanced search can really help you narrow down to try and find the right recruiter for larger companies. And if you're not hearing something back, it could be that you've just landed on the wrong recruiter. So don't give up because you don't hear back immediately. It's sometimes a very tedious process to just figure out, am I talking to the right person? And then the same can happen with hiring managers as well. Yeah. So you may be able to find the hiring manager of the job as well, and that's helpful.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I've done, once you put that requisition number in there and you reach out to the random recruiter, a lot of times they'll reply back and they'll say, well, I'm not the one requisitioning this role. You need to reach out to Jill. And then they tell me exactly, they're like, awesome, now I know who Jill is. So then I reach out to Jill instead, right? So by putting in that number, they'll be able to go into their ATS, which is just a database. It's not the boogeyman. And they will be able to tell you exactly who it is that's filling that role. And that's going to be the best path forward.
And sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. It's like there's the company culture too, and there may be some established we're inundated with requests all the time. Please don't tell anybody my name. So you may be coming up against some of that. I always say approach this whole process with just grace and empathy for the other person. You just don't know what it looks like from their desk. So
I'm really good you said that, and I think we should approach life like this in general. Everybody has a story, right? Courtney might be going through something and I don't know. Jesse's going through something, I don't know. Jacqueline's going through something, I don't know. Scott's going through something, you don't know. We're all going through stuff in life, and we really all want to do, recruiters, we want to do the best. Nothing makes a recruiter feel better than putting a person in a position. That's the highlight of their day, is filling a role. So, there is this big negative trend on LinkedIn about being ghosted and not getting supported and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, that reflects kind of on you more than it does on them. So yeah, approach everything in life with empathy, because we're all going through stuff, and put your best foot forward. And in the end, that's going to resonate and shine over anything negative that you might have to say about a process and a procedure.
I love that. And I know just from interacting with so many people, most of us are bent on helping others. Most of us, if somebody's like, I really need your help, and you're sending those messages, the default answer, we want it to be yes. The reality may be, I don't have 15 minutes to do a call. I don't have, please give me a specific. Sometimes I'll reply with, I want to answer that question, but it would be a dissertation for me to sit there and write. Like I had one last week where it was, what's a product manager at Microsoft do? And how did you overcome your employment gap? And it was like it was only three questions, but each of those are blog posts, multiple, so it's like, in that case, I was like, can you ask a very specific question? I'll try to answer a specific, because what you asked, there's a reason I built a career gap and pivot course, is so that anybody can take lessons learned from me and say, like, don't do that. So, because it was so much content and I was asked the same questions over and over and over again. So I was like, I have to be able to scale this effort. And so the silence may not be that an unwillingness. It may be they're not on LinkedIn a lot, and they may be just overwhelmed with what they're being asked. So it's kind of like I don't want to say no, it's just a not yet. And then sometimes not yet doesn't happen because time passes. So you can always gentle ping someone and say, I still really would love to talk to you and gain your insights. Is there a better way I could approach you? Sometimes I would rather you email me at work, because then I can have 10 minutes and answer questions. If I get into the LinkedIn time sink, I could lose my work day just because I get excited helping people. So I have to be very boundary-esque in what I do, and hopefully other people are doing that as well because they want to keep their day jobs, and so they don't have to turn on the green banner saying we're open to work because I was on LinkedIn too much.
Right. I can relate to that.
Yeah, Jesse, you have another question? Oh, unless Scott, did you want to chime in on that first before? Okay.
Yeah, the question I had, it kind of deals with the engagement piece. So especially it takes a lot of energy to do a lot of the engagement. What is your or how do you schedule out your day to make sure you only have a certain amount of time with engagement so you can keep up with other stuff that you're doing throughout the day? Especially because so energy drain or burnout doesn't happen.
I can take that one if you would like.
Go ahead.
One of the things that you can do is look, like if you have particularly those with large followings and you're trying to gain their attention, try and see if they post consistently at the same time every day. Like I use straight up a post scheduler so that I can spend time at once when I'm in this creative energy of what advice do I want to share? And I will schedule out weeks sometimes in advance of content, but that means they're going to land at the same time every single day. So one of those things is you can start watching the people that you're following and see like, okay, they posted at 8 o'clock today. Does that mean they always post at 8 o'clock? Because I know when my post lands, and I do experiment and shift with that, but I do know when my post lands. So I'm going to be more attentive to the time frame of about 15 minutes to an hour after I posted, and that you can see that you can almost bet on that pattern that right after it posts, you'll see me interacting and commenting and engaging with those people who are posting that are interacting with my content. And then there will be this long wall called the workday. And maybe I'll pop in around lunch and then continue to answer those. And then at the end of the day. So some of it, you can do that same strategy is kind of knowing when your favorites are posting or that targeted recruiter that post every day at 10 a.m. If you have somebody that you're targeting the relationship and you want them to notice you, then it's worth showing up at 10 a.m. to comment on their stuff so that your name is top of mind every single time. It's not a guarantee, not everybody schedules, but that would be one of my first things is, do they schedule at a specific time every day? The next question I might ask is what, just for your margin, like, okay, I have 15 minutes from 12 to 12:15. And that's when I will see who's top of mind in my feed or look for those people who are your targets. And you can track this in a spreadsheet. There's nothing stopping you from actually making a people tracking thing. You can download your entire contact list into a spreadsheet. So like one of the things you could do is delete those that are not in your, and that sounds so not people centric, but I have a lot of connections that are not in my progress forward path, even though I love interacting with them and I can almost guarantee I'm going to look for them because they're fun. But if I'm being strategic, I can sort that by who you can put a rank and then sort them, like they're number 10, and just kind of track yourself. Like, have I looked at their profile? Have I engaged in their content? And use that 15 minutes to maximize very strategically on that.
So I just typed in jibberjobber.com. Jibberjobber is basically a customer relations management database for the job seeker. Like Jacqueline was saying, is you can store up to 250 names on there at no cost. 250 is kind of a good space, like Jacqueline was saying, for people that can help you progress forward in your career. Another cool thing about it is as you're applying for jobs, you can track the job that you applied for. You can upload the resume you use, the cover letter you use, the person you spoke to, the URL for the company, maybe the vacancy announcement. So it's a great way to kind of like, once again, we keep using this word strategically, to strategically track your job search and the people that you really need to communicate with.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of
but it's a cool platform.
I thank you for that resource. I definitely wrote it down. I'll make sure to put it on my resources page of Witful Thinking. So, and then
another one that I absolutely love, it came up as Hunter, but basically it is an email address finder. So if I know, for example, I'm interested in a position at Microsoft or Nestle Purina, I can type in that company and then it'll tell me the language they use for email addresses. So is it first initial last name at Microsoft.com? And once I've known that, I can then email the recruiter versus sending them a message on LinkedIn. And once again, like Jacqueline was saying, sometimes it's easier for me to get an email than a message on LinkedIn. So this is a way to kind of find email addresses for companies and then reach out to the people that work for that company.
Yeah. And you can always try to just ask the recruiter. It's like, I'm really interested in this position. I know LinkedIn can get really noisy. Can I have your email address? And just, you can even say, I promise I'm not going to spam you. I just have a question. And then honor that promise. I have people that must use Hunter because I get the craziest stuff at my work inbox where it's like, I'm so glad you wanted to participate and da 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 da. And I'm like, what? Who are you? But they learned the pattern. They know it's my first name, last name at Microsoft.com, with a dot in between. So,
Exactly. Yeah. So you could use that to your advantage. But like you're saying, I mean, my messages on LinkedIn, they get buried pretty quickly. So if I don't stay on top of it, like if I take a weekend off, and this goes back to recruiters also, it's not that they're ignoring you. It's just it gets inundated with so many different requests and asks and the other stuff that they might have going on that those messages just get buried. Fortunately, I do have my LinkedIn set up that I'll get an email saying, Joe Smith sent me an email 3 days ago. You haven't replied yet. Then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, let me go see what Joe Smith had to say so that way I can reply to him. So it's kind of a nice way to get a friendly reminder.
Yeah. And I have people that I've truly, they've been on Mentorship Live. We have these amazing connections, and I will still not get a response sometimes when I ask a question. And that's just kind of showing you that you can have that friendship built, and they still may not have that space to function. I keep saying I part of me wants to shift to LinkedIn just so I can improve the inbox experience for people.
Yes,
this would be amazing.
Right?
Yes, but they're Microsoft companies, so it's like, come on, we could do better. We could do better. Let's just build a flag for follow-up. That would be amazing. Yes, I do see we are getting close to about 10 minutes left. This hour has absolutely flown by so far. Did you want to do any closing thoughts, or are there last questions before we start to wind down? I do encourage anybody to put your LinkedIn profile in chat. I'd love to use this as a connection piece for everyone, and to especially if we have job seekers that are in the trenches, we can learn from each other, and that's what it's all about. So.
No, I mean, I guess one thing is I wasn't able necessarily kind of to keep up with the chat, so I did drop in my LinkedIn URL. So reach out and connect with me if we're not connected yet. And then if you need anything, I'll reply as soon as I can, obviously, but have a little bit of patience. But I'm pretty much on it. I even tell people, don't email me. You're better off sending me a message on LinkedIn than sending me an email. So please feel free to do that. I'm happy to support any way I possibly can. I'm happy to look at your resume, your LinkedIn profile, offer advice and guidance kind of moving forward. And then hopefully we get to see everybody on the 9th as we do this again. And Jacqueline, if you got some time, feel free to stop by and share some insight as well. It's literally going to be an open forum and discussion.
Yes, wonderful. And that link was put in chat if anybody needs. It's called the Hands-on LinkedIn Happy Hour. So
yes.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts here? See, I just keep wanting to pick your brain because you've given me resources that I've never didn't know about, and those always make me super excited. I'm like, wait, what is this thing?
Right?
Like the job seeker CRM. I had no idea that was there, and I think there's even like a resume scanning app, maybe JobScan or something like that.
So jobscan.co.
Okay.
I use Resume Worded.
Did you say Resume Worded?
Yeah. And what that'll do is it will grade out your resume. And then I think it's like $15 a month if you want a further in-depth analysis of what's wrong with your resume.
Okay.
Which personally, I do have the coach's license. So for those of you that are out there, if you want me to run your resume through the system, I'd be happy to do that for you. And then I record a quick Loom video where I say, I take you through what the computer's saying, and then I'll take you through what I'm seeing as a human. And together between the computer and myself, will help you develop a better resume. The other thing it'll do is it will actually scan your LinkedIn profile as well. And it'll grade your LinkedIn profile and give you a grade and some suggestions on how to enhance that. But what's even better is it is sort of an applicant tracking system to where you can upload your resume and then a vacancy announcement, and it'll match the keywords together, and it'll tell you what keywords are missing in your resume to add before you apply for the job. So
Wow.
as you're tailoring the resume. So it's a really cool system.
Wonderful. Thank you. I wrote all of those down, and I'm going to have to go visit and play with it. Again, as I was talking with Scott before the call even started, that I just love to experiment and test and see, especially as I try to help other people. I mean, yes, it'd be great to learn all those things if I'm in the job search, but at the same time, it's like, well, does this work or does this work? And that's why I'm a product manager. I just have to ask the questions and try and get the answers. I can't help it.
Right.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and stop the recording here. And if anybody wants to linger for a few minutes, then I have a little bit of time today, not as much as normal, but happy to hang out if anybody wants to just chat. But thank you, Scott, for being here. I really appreciate your insights.
I'm glad to be here, and invite me back anytime. I love talking about this stuff. So, and I'm the same way. I could stick around. I could